it so challenging? Because changing times, as rightly said, we said lack of social buffers. We also know about westernization and individualism. Basically, India is a collectivistic society, right? But we have shifted now to being more individualistic, more materialistic, and if I may so, more selfish. Uncensored excessive media exposure. It's not that healthy media exposure we are against, but uncensored excessive is the problem. Multiple choices, so many choices, adolescents get confused, children get confused, brands of clothes, brands of phones, so many things. And they need really the help of adults to make the right kind of choices. Whether they really need that phone at all or not is another question altogether. Forget the different brands. So if the adults are not there in their life at that particular moment, it becomes all the more difficult, and then the temper tantrums because of immediate gratification, the entitled generation, as many child psychiatrists and even pediatricians say. Time is at a premium for parents also. I don't blame them because time is money. But then if you have a child, the least that you can do is invest time. So I often also, I sometimes sound very radical when I say if you can't invest time, it's better not to have a child. And please don't put all the load on the grandparents. The grandparents can do grandparenting, right? And it is an honor and privilege to do grandparenting. Sometimes parenting is a challenge, though we often say that if a parent is, when a parent is not there, if something, God forbid, bad happens, then a mother figure may replace, but it's a big challenge to actually discipline the child as a grandparent the same way as the parent would do. And you would all realize that thinking about your own grandparents, right? So is parenting the only thing which determines the health of the child? And as we say, the well-being, now we say that child and adolescent well-being is determined by good health, good nutrition, the ability to keep them safe and secure, to make sure that they have enough learning opportunities and they have healthy relationships. So these are the domains of what we call nurturing care framework of the WHO. It first came only for the younger children, the first 1,000 days, but now we say the first 10,000 days. That is covering children from 0 to 24 years because the brain is under construction and most of the brain myelination or the brain maturity takes place by 24 years. So that's the reason while we cover the lifespan approach and we say the pregnant mother's health also has great impact on in utero on the baby. Okay, so this is what we say, and what really determines health. It is not only the schools and the families, there's so many other things. The communities, how does the community respond, whether health services or whether good schools are available, what is the government policy, how much importance does the government give to child protection? How much can the government do to protect the children from maltreatment? So all those things are important. How much economic, what is the investment in child and adolescent health care? Leave aside mental health care. What is the socio-political climate and the other climate? You know, so much climate change, disasters occurring, floods occurring, all these have great impacts, especially on education and of course the digital media. And it is rightly said, it takes a whole village to raise a child. So sometimes parents do their best, I have seen, and they go into immense guilt that the child has probably turned out to be not so good as they envisaged. Parenting has a role, agreed, but also the child's own temperament, his own genetic innate abilities also have a big role to play. So for all of you who are here, let's go into the Bhagavad Gita mode, you know, let's do our best. Let's do our best. Eventually what happens, nobody knows. Nobody knows. We hope for the best. We are not negative about it, but you may be not the only person to have an impact on the child, right? It definitely takes a whole village to raise a child. So having said that, back to Lord Krishna, and you know how beautifully Lord Krishna was brought up by parents who had adopted him. Right? And I know in this generation there are many parents who adopt children, and we often tell them that please tell your child as soon as the child is capable of understanding that you are an adopted child. Very, very important, because later if somebody tells, they really feel very down about it. And we often tell parents to tell them in such a way that I had the opportunity to choose you, and you are the most loving and beautiful child, and that's why we took you. Even Lord Krishna was an adopted child. So having talked a little bit about adoption, where do you think parenting starts? When a child is born? Does anybody disagree? Or all of you agree with what she says? Huh? When the baby is in the womb, okay, when the baby is in the womb, yeah. Anything else? Right from planning, so we have the psychiatrist there giving the right answer. Yes, when you think of having a baby, yeah, is when parenting starts. And we often neglect that part, you know. When you think of having a baby, we don't go and tell, you know, what will be the challenges, who will take the leave, who will change the nappies, who will stay awake, who will help the mother in breastfeeding. Right? And then the baby comes and then there's chaos, right? So I think especially in today's generation, you know, in the today's times when really help is difficult, we often say that please start becoming a parent when you start thinking of having a baby. And like it's here, the baby is growing in the womb, but father also has an equally important part to play. The mother in his mind to look after. So the parenting starts right then. So the golden rule number 1 is provide a stable, nurturing, stimulating home environment, right? And I love this picture, so you can see the mother and the father are both nurturing the little child who's blooming to become a plant. And then you have the grandfather, the grandmother as circles of protection against around that family. And unconditional love, hugs, play, smiles, laughter, joyful engagement start right when they are born. That's very, very important for the child to develop a secure attachment. Very, very important. Child should feel wanted, right? So it has to be, everything has to be very, very planned. A 9-year-old boy came with headache for 9 months and it was only relieved by injection. Any tablet we used to give, it was not working. And when this child came to me, he came with a big file of CT scans and MRI, including going to a neurologist, being put on migraine prophylaxis, all that. But he would get headache in the night, and the mother said he would keep on shouting, so much headache, so much headache. We had to take him to the hospital, give him an injection, and then his headache would go. So I had a talk with this child one-on-one, and he told me, doctor, my father comes drunk in the night and he beats up my mother. And they both have a fight. My mother beats up my father also, and they just won't stop. And it becomes so difficult for me that only when I say I have an headache do they stop, and then my mother takes me to the hospital. I don't mind taking an injection only if they stop fighting. So you see, 9 months of so many investigations, so many tablets, nobody had talked to the child one-on-one. So we really don't know, you know, and especially a child, I mean in a school setting, when the child is repeatedly getting sick and you're not able to find out what the problem is, there may be a stressor, and what the child may need is a one-on-one talk. You know, so it makes so much difference. And when we counseled this mother and we referred this father, not that he was off alcohol, but at least if we told him to moderate his use and not beat up with the mother, it took us a couple of months. Just getting them onto the picture, the headache was gone, because this child knew that somebody is trying to help them. So it is so very important that what parents do, and I would say self-care is very, very important. We often talk about looking after our children, and as we said, we can't, pour from an empty cup and, put on your own oxygen mask when you go in the airlines. It's often said. So if we want our children to be healthy, we really need to look after ourselves. So that is so very important, and that will be the golden rule number 1. Please look after yourself, seek professional help if unwell, either for a mental disorder or for a physical disorder. Ensure harmony at home. Children find this so very important. Join your children in joyful, fun-filled activities. Be forgiving and kind to yourself. Even if you have made an error, and form positive social groups. Yeah, we have so many WhatsApp groups. It's a good idea to have a parenting group and take out all your frustration on the parenting group rather than on the child, and actually you may learn from each other, and that is what we all recommend.